What's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good evening thus far, that they enjoyed the awesome evening of wrestling last night. But tonight, you've got the Going Broadway podcast. Returning after a brief hiatus, it is Alex. It is Cole. We legit have not even talked before we went live. So, Cole, truly, what's going on?
Good evening, everybody, and Alex. Welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We sincerely appreciate you joining us this evening, as we have plenty to talk about for tonight's show. And this might be one of the very few regular shows we have because, and we'll talk about it later, but we have a lot of guests coming up in the next handful of weeks. So,
well, let's just address that real quick. So we'll just get this out of the way, and we might rehash it during our promotion segment, but starting next week, we've literally got back to back interviews, literally 4 consecutive weeks of interviews. So next Sunday, we've got Bobby Fish joining us. I'm going to get rid of this little ticker thing real quick. I'm doing this now because, we've got a decent viewership at the moment, and you know what? We're just going to let you know while we got the most people here. So yeah. Bobby Fish, a week from tonight, at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. The following week, Eric Bischoff joins us, same time, Sunday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. The week after that, we've got John Alba joining us. He is co-host of Strictly Business with Eric Bischoff. He does Matt Hardy's podcast with him as well. Then the week after that, Marcus Bagwell. So all of those are Sunday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Starting next week, 4 consecutive weeks of back-to-back interviews, and I'm super excited about it. So join us. And we already announced that at least for the Eric Bischoff interview, we're going to be having a free giveaway. But you never know when we're going to do free giveaways, period. We might do one tonight. Just because
it can happen. Anything can happen here on the GBP podcast.
Anything can happen. We have a few people on tonight that I saw a couple comments that, we hadn't been joining us in a while, but they are familiar names. So a special good evening to our buddy Chris, Bonnie Pearson as well. A blanket good evening to one and all. But like Cole said, we got a lot to talk about. So I'm going to throw this ticker back up. I'm just going to randomly pick one.
Just pick it. There you go.
Picked it. All right. And you guys chime in as always whenever you feel so inclined. Oh, I forgot to mention, I did away with the monitors over here that were giving me a glare on my bald spot or whatever. As you can see, I replaced it with some gold, if you will.
Man, you're just looking like a straight champ over there with all them belts behind you. And then I got my white wall.
We'll get you hooked up. In all seriousness, I've not even talked to Cole about this, so you guys are in on this for the first time. But I might send you 2 of these or something.
Ooh, I'm about to become a champ, y'all.
Just to spice up your wall back there. We'll figure that out. Yeah, we gotta get you situated. I've still got all my old stuff. Where's your John Cena banner? What happened to that?
See, everything is in the office at the church, which
okay.
I could, I guess, go there and do the podcast, but I can't hardwire in there. So that's...
Bonnie, we're in sync. I've still got my Finn Balor flag if you want it. We'll figure something out. But
we gotta find a new spot. The wall behind me is so far away that you'll still just see a bunch of white walls. So
yeah,
I need to find a new location.
Well, you've on either side. You've got people would be able to see stuff. You got the little sidewall. I think that's a window. Is that a window to your right?
No.
What am I seeing? It's like a frame or something.
Over here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is like a window kind of right over here.
Okay. Yeah. As I say, like there's that sidewall by your window. There, you got wall space. People would see stuff.
Just a little.
We'll figure it out. Nonetheless, so let's chat about the Jay White situation. We'll get that. Okay. We'll get that out of the way. So jumping ahead slightly, we're going to talk about a few notes from Battle in the Valley, but Now we'll just talk about it now. So Jay White, he lost the original stipulation was a loser leaves Japan match with Hikuleo. So that really sparked it's been a rumor for 2 or 3 years now, especially during Rumble season, but especially now. And I think some wrestling media outlets have actually said his contract is up or has been up for quite some time. Lost a loser leaves Japan match. And then at Battle of the Valley last night, lost a loser leaves New Japan Pro Wrestling match with Eddie Kingston. By the way, guys, if you're fans of Eddie Kingston, I don't begrudge you at all. Cole and I we've said this publicly, we don't begrudge anyone for their set opinions, but dude, I don't know how people can, I'm going to get off on a tangent real quick, but I don't know how you can be in the wrestling business and be a friend with Eddie Kingston, because like, I don't know if you saw, he did this little presser thing for New Japan or for their event, and then just kind of like went off on Jay White, and any interview he does seems like it's a shoot. And I'm just like, even if you're friends with the guy, you got to wonder, it's like, well, how much is what he's saying actually true? Like, anyway, it just, Eddie Kingston's great on the mic, don't get me wrong, but like, there's just this feeling of, let's say he's having a match with somebody he's really friends with, but then does his same shtick in terms of the shoot like promo. I don't know. Like as an example, Cole and I are pretty good friends, but like if we're in the wrestling business and Cole decides to, do this promo and ripping on me, or this applies vice versa, it's just like, I don't know. And maybe you can speak to this. Maybe you have no thoughts whatsoever, Cole. That's totally fine. But I'm just, the presser that he did, the interview that he did, he was just like ripping on a lot of guys, not just Jay White, and ripping on guys in the business in general. And I get that he says that he's not in the business to be friends with anybody, blah blah blah. But it's like, dude, it's like, I get there's the whole aspect of, you do business with people in wrestling, you do business in the ring, you do business in the back, all is well and good. But at the same time, if he's real, I mean, I'm sure he's got friends, but it's like, they got to be few and far between if he's delivering shoot promos or shoot interviews like that, or shoot style, I should say, shoot style promos like that pretty much every time he has a microphone. So you can chime in if you want.
Yeah, I think for me, it's more about this comment right here.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I really don't like. I can't even get invested into his promos. His can he talk a lot of crap? Sure, he is. He is your crap talking champion. If you want to, he's real good at stirring the pot. Sure, but he's absolutely garbage in the ring. Like
He's not good.
Just not entertaining at all. I've said it multiple times, and I don't mean it to come off rude. I can only just say what it feels like. I feel like I'm watching Dads of Wrestling when he comes out. Like he does not have a good look. His in-ring ability is just like he's probably a C- rated wrestler in my opinion. And then to top it all off, and this is where, again, we're talking about the Jay White situation, obviously leading up to what does he do next. But as dedicated as Jay White has been to the New Japan product, I would feel absolutely disrespected if my last match, at least in this season of my life, was a loss to a C- rated, never really wrestles in New Japan often wrestler.
Yeah.
Like that's a slap to the face to Jay White. I'm sorry. Like there are so many other names. You could have switched Eddie Kingston with any other name on this card. There were bigger names that could have gotten one a rub off of losing or off of beating Jay White, and it would have actually helped them. And number two, respected Jay White enough to say, hey, if we're going to have you lose, or at least going to have you lose to somebody who's been a world champion, who's been, I much would have rather watched Jay White versus Josh Alexander. At least there's a champion mentality there. Like this to me feels like a slap to the face to Jay White. And I don't know, we don't know the conversations that are happening with Jay White and other companies, where he's going.
Oh, for sure.
Obviously, we'll discuss that in a second. But I think that my question goes to, is this New Japan trying to bury Jay White before he goes and signs somewhere else?
I mean, potentially. I kind of looked at it as a slap in the face before even the Eddie Kingston match, because it's like I get the talent of Hikuleo, but for casual New Japan fans, Hikuleo is just, I mean, okay, I'll consider myself I'll say I'm a casual New Japan fan. I've not followed the product as much, to be quite honest, since the exodus of guys whenever AEW was formed. I know enough about it to know, though, that Hikuleo is not really somebody that, even giving him the rub of banning Jay White, so to speak, I don't feel like it really does anything for Hikuleo.
No.
And it kind of throws me off, because, supposedly WWE is interested in him. I've seen him in the ring, and he's a tall, decent looking guy, but he's average in the ring, in my opinion. And I know we're kind of jumping all over the place, but it's like, to your point, I felt like it was a slap in the face as far as his exit prior to the Eddie Kingston match. And then you have this, and it's like, I mean, I couldn't agree more.
All of it more, even after that, then you have him get attacked by David Finlay. So like it's like, for me, it's the trifecta of disrespect.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. The Hikuleo thing, I was like, okay, the only thing I could kind of get from that was at least it was Bullet Club kind of storyline, if you will. Like, but Hikuleo to me is a mid-carder at best, in any company, without growth, without, obviously, like, everyone has a chance to grow. Everyone has a chance to together. But in current state, I think he's a mid-carder in any company, currently, from what I've seen. So you have him lose to him, and I was like, okay, whatever. I can get past that. Then you have him lose to Eddie Kingston, and I'm like, oh, that's a slap to the face. But then you don't even give him like a respectful send-off. Then you have him, like, it felt like when they sent Matt Hardy out on Raw. Like, how the man just get obliterated by Randy Orton, said, see you later, to somebody who's been a straight legend in your company, specifically your company, not in the business, in your company.
Yeah,
Jay
for sure.
White is known because of New Japan. He's not known because of AEW. He's not known because of Impact. He's not known from any other company. Jay White got over because of New Japan and the things that he did in that company. So you would think, like, I want to send this guy off with respect. He's done a lot of things for our business. And instead, you have him lose twice to guys that just aren't worthy of the win over him, in my opinion. And then you have him get beat up by David Finlay just so Finlay can get over. And didn't he lose on the card that night?
No, I actually think he had no, he defeated Bobby Fish.
Oh, that
was a pre-show.
Okay, that's right. I couldn't remember. I knew he had a match. I couldn't remember the result. So yeah, I think it's just a slap in the face. Now to fast forward to the conversation we really want to have. I guess the question is where does Jay White actually end up? Obviously, there's the rumors that WWE is interested in him. We obviously were already talking about that.
You guys that are watching also chime in. We'll throw up your comments and we'll discuss. So anyway, go ahead.
So obviously we've heard that rumor. Obviously that would be one of the two big companies to discuss. But interested to hear thoughts. I got mixed feelings on where I think he ends up. And I'll go ahead and get mine out of the way. That way we can kind of discuss it. But not that WWE shouldn't be interested in him. I don't really know where he fits in WWE. Like it's not that he's not talented, but if I was WWE, like I would almost maybe use Jay White to kind of reflame NXT with that indie scene movement that they had going for a while, and maybe put him. I don't want people to feel like it's a demotion for him, because I think he could be a catalyst, kind of like your Adam Coles, your Drew McIntyres, your Bobby Roodes of the business that came into NXT and made it exciting to watch. And were the guys that kind of helped elevate it to a television program-esque worthy thing. So I think Jay White would be someone that you could kind of maybe rekindle that with. It gives a viable contender to guys like Braun Breaker right now, because Carmelo Hayes may not be the one to beat him. They're already talking about maybe bringing him up.
Yeah.
So you keep running out of these top contenders, and this is not a diss, and I'm not trying to get off subject, but like a JD McDonough is not a top contender. I just you keep putting these guys in position that aren't believable to win. So I think that if he goes to WWE, I don't think there's a main roster slot. We're already struggling to get guys like Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Karrion Kross in the mix where they should be. Bronson Reed's up there now. So you have all these guys that are kind of deserving of a push. And then you watch, and I don't want to jump ahead, but you watch performances like Montez Ford in the Chamber, and you even, I'll even say this, Angelo Dawkins has stepped up immensely in his performance in the ring, and his character. Like, he's showing, hey, I kind of have something in me too. Like,
yeah, so much so that the actual, so it's been rumored for a while, just, I mean, with it is as it is with any tag team that's been together for a while, that they might be splitting them up, not necessarily in a feud, but just
right,
so they can do their own thing.
Right.
But the rumor most recently that is, I mean, it's been maybe month and a half ago, that they were actually looking at Angelo Dawkins as potentially getting the push that Montez was seemingly going to get, based on his in-ring ability that seemed like at the time was, better, for lack of a better word, than Angelo Dawkins. But to your point, Angelo's really stepped it up. And so I mean, to your point, WWE has a lot of depth as it is. And so trying to fit Jay White in there, I agree, is kind of.
Well, then you bring in Cody Rhodes. You bring in once AJ Styles is healed, he's all automatically up there. Randy Orton's rumored for a return. You got Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn that are popping off. Like you Gunter. My goodness, like you have all these guys that are, and you got to give it to Austin Theory too. Like the transition from making him a goofball champion to making him a believable champion's there. You have Bobby Lashley. Like we could name so many names that are all ready for and kind of primed to always kind of be in that top slot. Jay White has the name value and the skill to be there, but I think he gets lost in the mix because he's not established with let's just be real, with the American mark in general. Like, the average wrestling fan may not know who Jay White is. The New Japan Pro Wrestling, the AEW fan, maybe a little bit, specifically the hardcore fans would know who he is. I don't think your average WWE fan knows who Jay White is. Hence why when we were talking Royal Rumble time, we were talking about who guest entrance would be. He wasn't really on the top of my list because I don't know if you get a big pop in WWE specifically. I don't know if you get the reaction that you're wanting, because I don't know if everybody knows who he is, which is why I would be like, man, let's put him in NXT. Let's allow the fans who do know who he is to watch him on NXT. Let's get him established. Let's have him do some stuff there. And then when the time is right, we do something. The only value I see that he has in WWE is if they want to do potential Bullet Club-esque type storylines. Obviously, you have Cody Rhodes there. You have AJ Styles. You have Finn Balor. Jay White gets added in the mix. Now you got 4. So either you can
bring the Good Brothers there too.
And the Good Brothers. So you could put a faction together, or you could have them like feud off into subcategory groups and feud with each other on who the real, group is. I don't know. That's the only value I see.
Sorry, go ahead.
I almost could see myself leaning towards him going to AEW or someone said it earlier, Impact, from the simple standpoint of, one, they're going to be more free. There's going to be more freedom for him to continue to travel and do different dates and do different things and really broaden his horizons in the American market. AEW will use them where they want to. He obviously could have a huge role in ROH as they get television program running as well. There's a lot more options there, even though I think AEW has an already overbloated roster that they don't use correctly. And that includes ROH as well in that conversation. Hopefully they find a way to divide those up, with ROH having weekly televised programming. They kind of separate the two and give people opportunities. But I actually, I don't know who said it earlier. Tyler Benton said Impact bound. I think Impact actually intrigues me the most. Impact's putting together a little squad over there. It's not business as usual in Impact. They're really starting to, I feel like, put some things together that feel special. Bully Ray coming in and kind of doing some of the things that he did, I think kind of amped up some things. And so if I had my pick, I would say Jay White to NXT. I think he could do a lot of great things in NXT and work his way up. If I had to go with my gut, though, I'm thinking AEW, ROH. If I think what would make the most sense for Jay White, it would be Impact.
So as far as Impact goes, Impact shouldn't be slept on, not only with the Jay White situation, but I mean, just in general. They're putting out a good product right now.
Yep.
If you've not watched it, go watch it. It doesn't have, the crowd pops necessarily in terms of volume, just
and production. Production's not the same. They don't have the same budget, so you cannot compare.
Well, they're in a maybe 1,000 to 2,000 seat venue, so they just don't, by virtue of that, they don't have as many people.
Right.
But the matches are pretty good. That being said, I don't think he goes to Impact, because if he's coming to the States, I think he is looking for a money deal, and I don't begrudge him of that. I don't think Impact does that, unless the only way he winds up in Impact is if he signs with AEW, but they say, sure, you can do AEW dates, you can do Impact dates, pretty much giving him the freedom to work wherever he wants, as storylines and pay-per-view dates and dynamites and all that stuff would allow. That being said, if I'm Jay White, I'm going to WWE. If they truly are interested, just because I know a lot of the people, Thomas Russell said it, I think he gets lost in AEW. He gets lost in the mix. He just becomes another guy that, you can say the same thing about WWE for sure, just because of roster depth. But the edge I give WWE over AEW is, what the heck is AEW doing creatively right now? The product is as bad as it's ever been. Ever. I even said, it might have been on our last podcast, that I said the AEW Max has 2 big signings all year at the very most. I'm actually going to reduce that down to 1. I think at best in 2023, AEW has 1 big signing. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but they got to do something, man. Like, again, we go off on tangents. It is what it is. The tag title situation. I'm not. Listen. Okay. I said a while back that the Acclaimed, I was never really. I didn't get the appeal of them like so many other people did and do. I've warmed up to them a little bit, still not as much as other people have. But you have them lose to the Guns? Like,
I can't even take it serious, bro.
what are you doing? Like, I mean, did the crowd reaction should have said it itself? Like, really, Tony Khan, this is what you're doing? Like,
They didn't even do it right. Like, what's
no,
funny that
no,
like if you're gonna have the Guns do it, Billy Gunn should have turned on the
yeah,
Acclaim.
exactly.
They didn't even do the booking of the terrible decision right. Like that's what blew my mind about all of it, is that I was looking at it and I was like, oh, surely this is a way to get random Billy Gunn off of the Acclaimed. Like it, I get that they did the whole, gimmick that Billy Guns ran and all that, and it kind of went with the, but they didn't even do the storyline right. Granted, I'm gonna be real with you. I have not watched AEW in probably 3 months. Like
Oh, it's been longer than that for me.
I tune into the YouTube clips. I stay current because we run a
Same here.
podcast.
Yeah.
And I want to be current, but I can't. I mean, how people felt about WWE 3 years, 4 years ago consistently, that is where I've gotten with AEW. I had tried to be faithful. I had tried to sit through it. I get so bored, probably 30 minutes into the show, that I will start diddle-daddling on my phone because I can't even deal with the storylines that are there. To your point about Jay White, he definitely gets lost in the mix. I mean, he's literally the same persona, same guy as half their roster.
Yeah.
They have signed the same talent over and over again. This was the fear that we had with AEW maybe a year and a half ago. You can keep signing name after name. You can keep doing big reveal after big reveal. But if you don't do anything with those names, all it was a quick pop and nothing more. And
a quick, expensive pop in some cases, depending on the contracts.
What's even funnier is that I think these guys, you noticed it with some of the names, and I don't want to throw them under the bus, but we've had conversation with certain talents that are extremely frustrated with their AEW contracts and how things go, because they went there with the mindset of, one, they have a plan for me. They're going to pay me. They're allowing me to do my independent dates still. There's all this good stuff. But then you sit at home off TV doing nothing, and now they are kind of controlling contracts. Y'all, all I can say is this. We have had several AEW talents that are signed who want to do our show. I mean, are very adamant that they want to do our show and cannot because AEW steps in and says no. Not for any other reason that they just don't want them on the show. And I don't know if that's because there's a fear that they'll talk about the current situations or what, but it is annoying because they signed these contracts, and one of the big promises of AEW was, we're going to give you the freedom. Like, you should have your rights and your abilities to have your freedoms to be you're a contracted art, wrestler. We don't own you. You're doing this job for us. And now it's like the same thing as WWE that everyone was complaining about. I couldn't do what I wanted to do over here, so I came to AEW. Now AEW is like, now that you're here, we're going to do the same thing. Not to the same extreme, but we're going to do the same thing. And that is where I'm just like, a lot of these guys that signed these big deals, I bet they're kicking themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, why did I should have signed, knowing how new this company is, knowing how everything's going, I should have signed like a 2-year deal max and just see where things end up in 2 years and then reevaluate. Is this company really what it says it is? And so,
to Chris's comment real quick too, like, we're not bashing the AEW product because they're not communicating with us or not letting us have talent on. We're ripping on AEW because the product that they put out on TV is the worst that it's ever been. Like, you can have good matches for sure. Like, I'm not saying the matches are bad, but you have to have a storyline that makes sense. Like, what are they doing with Saraya and Tony Storm? What was that? Like, they're spraying green spray paint like on her rear end, and then like
it's brilliant. I don't know if that's sarcasm or not. Here's the thing: I can't get behind the page thing. Period.
No,
it's not that if you're gonna have Paige, I will agree. I think her being a heel is the best idea because her promos as a face are like watching
Cringe.
paint dry. I mean, it's just it is so bad.
There,
Um,
it's at a promos. Okay, you either have bad promos or that you have horrible promos that you actually feel uncomfortable watching them.
yeah. It feels like an NXT tryout promo. Like that's how it felt. But back to the original conversation of I
Yeah.
agree with you. If I'm Jay White, I go to WWE, and I think I go back to I think he's that Tommaso Ciampa, that Johnny Gargano, that Adam Cole era type thing where he goes to NXT and he's there for a couple years. No rush, no like main push. Like you're gonna be here 6 months and then we'll get you up here. Let him be the guy that really elevates your NXT product back to what it was. And I think you're going to draw other talents there because they're going to be like, oh, look at what Jay White's doing in NXT right now. Because look at what the other guys, Adam Cole did that. I think Adam Cole was a huge catalyst to get other names there. I think Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, these names that we have, Bobby Roode, like you saw what they were doing in that air. Everybody wanted to be there. And then you had all the rumors. They're like, we don't want to leave. We like what we're doing here. Don't move me up. Like I like what I'm doing here. I think that's the potential for Jay White.
So I'll give you a scenario that would make sense for it to have Jay White actually debut on the main roster. And you kind of touched on it a little bit. So this would have to be a lot of moving parts here that would have to kind of coincide, or they'd have to get to this point fairly quickly. So part one, the Judgment Day stable, I think, regardless of the Jay White situation, I'm kind of looking at this at two different buckets, so to speak, for lack of a better way to put it. It seems like the Judgment Day stable is kind of winding down because it almost seems like, for whatever reason, just based on the not just the social media post, but also I don't know if anybody watched the Elimination Chamber press conference last night, but it almost feels like that they are moving in the direction of making Rhea Ripley a face. And I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I mean, Beth Phoenix was really, really putting her over, saying it's her time, this and that. And I'm like, are they doing a face turn for her while she's in the Judgment Day stable? That wouldn't really make sense. Now,
not to mention when you have Charlotte running as a face right now and you're getting ready to put her up.
But it almost feels like they might do that because they're also seemingly going in the direction of making Asuka heel.
True.
So I don't know, just throwing that dynamic in there to explain part A, so to speak, as far as the Judgment Day situation. I really feel like that Damian Priest would be fine on his own at this point.
Was fine on his own.
Yeah. I don't know what you do with Dominic Mysterio, and frankly, I don't care. I mean,
here's the thing.
He should be better than what he is at this point, especially regardless of the Mysterio name, the lineage, whatever. As much time as he has spent in WWE, at least from an in-ring standpoint, he should be better.
The thing, I will say this, Judgment Day has helped him.
Yeah.
It has helped him. And I'm glad that it at least accomplished getting him somewhat over. The problem is that you strip away Judgment Day, there's nowhere still to put him. He does not, but that's the problem, right? Like Judgment Day helped get him over, but they're the reason he's over. He's not gonna go be over on himself from this point. I think at best
Thomas beat me to it.
He's a tag team wrestler at best. I don't know if you pair him with whoever you can think, maybe like an Axiom, if you were to call him up and whatnot. Maybe you do the Dominic gets the mask from Mysterio and he becomes the new Mysterio
What about
mask.
this? Move him over to SmackDown and throw him with Legado del Fantasma.
Yeah, something like he's a lackey. I don't think I think the expectation for him is because of the last name, we've set the bar here when he's really like he's not meant to be here. He's meant to be here. He doesn't have the look, he doesn't have the ability. I'm definitely okay with him going down to NXT. I think he has a better shot at being more used right now in NXT. And maybe you can find a way to get him over there. Maybe you find something that works, and there's a lot more time to play around with his character.
Solely based on his existing character, I mean, you could throw him in the North American title picture almost immediately, just because, I mean, he does get heat. I'm not
he's not bad. Here's the thing. He's not bad in the ring. He's not bad. He's not
horrible, but
he's not horrible.
But
again, the bar is set here for Dominic Mysterio when it should be here. And because one, they hot shotted him into WWE, should not have been on the main roster from the jump. So we've been getting our eyes on him for way too long and not seeing any improvement. And so I think you could throw him into the NXT product and he could be a singles wrestler there pretty easy. But spend time there though. Don't rush him back. Nothing
There's
else.
a hot take for you.
Man, Logan Paul, Triple H said it last night. Last night during the press conference. It's like he's born to do this, y'all. Like I am not one for the celebrity coming in, but when they come in and they do it to the level that Logan Paul has done it, like I had respect for Bad Bunny because at least he put in the time to learn some of the moves and do some of the things. But Logan Paul can do it. Like there ain't no try. There ain't no. Logan Paul is a pro wrestler. Like there is no. There's no arguments
on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, I got to reel this back in. So, and then you've got Finn Balor, who I would, excuse me, throw into this storyline or whatever you want to call it. So you'd have Finn Balor, you'd have AJ Styles, you would have the Good Brothers. Who am I missing?
Cody.
AJ. Yeah, okay. And Finn, AJ, Good Brothers, Cody, and then Jay White. So this goes with I was actually talking to our buddy Austin about this. On paper, I can understand why people wouldn't go for this. However, hear me out. Post WrestleMania, what if you have Cody coming out as champion, beating Roman, and then from a week by week standpoint, you have kind of like lines being drawn to the point where, like let's say AJ wants to be his first challenger. And then right away, you've got seeds for something that would, because throwing the Good Brothers, and then again, you'd have to get Finn away from Judgment Day for this to work. But then let's say you've got Cody and Finn, but then you've got AJ and the Good Brothers. And so where do you go from there? It's 3-on-2 from a storyline standpoint. Insert Jay White. But then Jay White turns on Cody, joins AJ and the Good Brothers. Then, assuming Cody, in my fantasy booking, assuming Cody would defeat AJ, you got your next challenger right there in Jay White. And then immediately, like, Jay White is relevant.
Let me fast forward you, though, because this thought just came to my mind. Bloodline needs one more signing out now that Sammy's out of the group. Needs one more signing to have 5 in the group. They have obviously plenty of people they could choose from who are in the heritage and the bloodline. in real life that they could sign to make that happen. What if next year's War Games is the Bloodline versus the Bullet Club? What if it's 5-on-5? It's Jay White, it's Cody Rhodes, it's AJ Styles, it's Finn Balor, and one of the Good Brothers, or however you want to work that out, or it's the Good Brothers, and maybe one of those people aren't in there, from the Bullet Club side, and then it's against the Bloodline. Because let's just be real, Cody Rhodes wins the belt at WrestleMania, Roman's going to be off TV for a minute. He's going to take a break. There's no doubt in my mind. So you bring him back
real quick to that point. I saw online about something like Roman is taking a break, and that fuels the rumors that he's leaving, or that he's losing or dropping the belt at WrestleMania. Where did that start, or how did that start? I just saw that yesterday.
I think the rumor is that we think he's going to drop at Mania, and I don't see how he doesn't take a break. Because here's the thing: what do you do?
So it was a consequence of losing the belt, not vice versa. Like,
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
It just
from my opinion, if Roman wins, the only place you can put Roman is right back in the title picture. So are you going to have Roman go back-to-back losses against Cody? No, probably not. So Roman takes time off, and his first feud back could, because if Cody holds the belt till November when they do Survivor Series, you could have Roman make his return around Survivor Series. I'm just saying it's an option. We've spent a lot of time on this, but
100% they still exist come War Games.
They're always going to exist. The Bloodline has probably, based off of the excellent storytelling that they have done since Roman became champion, they are probably going to be in everybody's top maybe 20, top 15 stables of all time. I think that they deserve that. You might be able to argue top 10 by the time their careers are over and what they've collectively done. But you're talking longest reigning tag team champions and one of the longest reigning world champions.
Yeah.
Especially in this decade. So I definitely think they'll be there.
So I'll summarize my spiel, if you will, regarding Jay White, at least as his future goes. I think, again, if I were him, I would go to WWE. As far as where I think he goes, I actually think he winds up in WWE as well. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes to NXT, but just, I don't know, for whatever reason, my gut just tells me that if he's really that big of a priority signing, that, the wrestling media and the dirt sheets, so to speak, claim that he is, if he's that big of a priority, I almost think he's just, they're going to move him right away to Raw or SmackDown. Now, that being said, WWE, if anyone watches this from WWE, please do not change his name.
Well,
please leave him Jay White. You don't need to fix it if it's not broken. I mean, I'm just saying, because, like, again, if he's that big of a priority, really all he has is a name value to a lot of wrestling fans, just because if people that know the name Jay White that haven't watched New Japan probably only know his name, or maybe watched a YouTube or video or two on him, because by virtue of the fact that if you're only a WWE fan, I'm sure you probably, keep an eye on the dirt sheets, wrestling media, or whatever. You probably stay up to date on Fightful or Wrestling Inc. or whatever. So you've probably seen the name Jay White, but that's, for a lot of fans, that's all they know is the name Jay White. So if he's that big of a priority, you have no need to change it. Just throwing that out there. Okay, so the other facet of this Jay White situation, 45 minutes into the show, there's a rumor on top of the rumor that there's a bigger name than Jay White that WWE is working on. So we'll make this part of the conversation as short as possible. Cole, who do you think it is? If it's true.
Here's the thing, bigger name to who? Because
Yeah,
there's a lot
it's
of
true.
names out there that you and I we could run down the list and we could argue who's got a bigger name. I don't know if there's a clear-cut argument currently in the landscape of how wrestling is set up that we're aware of that their contract is up or that they're in a place where they're working a lot of different things and they're kind of free to sign with WWE, and if you will. I don't know if you could tell me that there's a clear-cut bigger name than Jay White. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think what was it, Ibushi that they rumored that he wants to go there,
Yeah,
but only if he can be a coach. Now that's what I didn't understand. He wants to go there and only be a coach, or he's saying I want to wrestle, but
do both.
once I'm done, I want to be a coach when it's all said and done.
I actually took it as he wanted to do both at the same time.
So he's going to go to NXT, kind of be like an on-screen personality in a sense, but not really ever promote out of it. Just he'll kind of be there.
So how I saw it was, so I assume he'd be NXT because if he's wanting to do the Performance Center, you might be right. It could be once his career is done after the fact that he would do Performance Center, but I took it as he would compete on TV and still, do the Performance Center training at the same time. So that being said, I would assume if that's the case, he would be NXT. But to me, if you're bringing in Kota Ibushi, unless, to your point, they want to revitalize this NXT feel that they had, the NXT Gold feel, if you will, if they're wanting to revitalize that, I could understand bringing in Ibushi for that. But if Ibushi is, again, a bigger name than Jay White that they're working on, the same thing applies. I feel like he would be.
You can't sign him and leave him on NXT, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see, that's where I struggle now. So, now correct me if I'm wrong, was the rumor that they're working on a bigger name, period, or was the rumor that they're working on a bigger name from New Japan specifically?
Just a bigger name in general. It didn't say New Japan.
Okay, so let's talk this through quickly. I mean, obviously, Nick Aldis is out there. Could you argue that Nick Aldis is a bigger name than Jay White? I think the conversation's there. I think that all goes back to what product did you watch? Who are you more familiar with? Like for me, Nick Aldis is a bigger name than Jay White. Not because Jay White's not good, but because I'm more familiar with Nick Aldis than I am Jay White. That's just, I'm naturally going to go that way.
The American audience is going to be more familiar with American wrestlers. That's just
the only reason why an American audience would know Jay White really is because of the stints he's done in AEW, the minor work that he's done there. So like Nick Aldis is a name that comes to mind. Sheesh, I don't know if there is another, like, name another talent that's out that I guess I don't know where Josh Alexander's contract is at, but I don't know if Josh Alexander is a bigger name than Jay White. I think that's more of a stretch in an argument, but I think Alexander fits the mold of what WWE likes. Moose, I don't know where Moose is at in his contract. I know that he's there, but you start going down the list, and it's like these are guys that I think WWE would like. These are guys that I think fit. But I don't know if they have a bigger resume than Jay White. Is there any names that come to your mind that are bigger names?
So people said it in the chat. Kenny Omega. Now I will preface by I'm gonna take the floor for just a second.
Take the floor.
I'll preface by saying none of us know his contract situation, at least as it relates to the injury aspect of things, having time added to his contract, being out because of injury. That's him. That's between him, Tony Khan, Kenny Omega's representation, lawyers, things like that. That being said, it's not a guarantee that he will have time added to his contract from what I've seen because of his representation, because of continuing his EVP duties. Again, something that's we're not in the in as far as that goes. This might be a hot take, unpopular opinion, whatever. I think Kenny Omega going to WWE is a lot more likely now than it's ever been, even prior to him helping form AEW, because of where AEW is from a creative standpoint. Where that would leave, him and the Bucks and things like that, I'm not even looking at that for right now. But with Cody jumping ship, like, Cody saw the writing on the wall. Like, why else would he have made the move? I get, the pursuit of, what's eluded him and his family. I get that that's a storyline, but there's also some real life truth to that. I also think Kenny has really accomplished all he's needed to in AEW at this point. The only reason I would see him stick around is because of the relationship and the friendship with the Bucks and other people backstage. At this point in his career, I'd be like, look, I've done what I can do. Let's look at it from a broad perspective. In any line of work that you do, you're always going to want to strive to work at or work for the pinnacle company, the pinnacle organization. No pun intended. Because I about said the elite organization, and then I said pinnacle, and I'm like, well, that doesn't work either. The main organization, the main company, like the upper echelon, the cream of the crop, so to speak. If you are a professional wrestler, you would aspire to work for WWE, to be on WrestleMania, because that's it. Like, that is the pinnacle to reach if you are a pro wrestler. I get that that's supposedly not important to some people. I'm not one to judge either way if that's the case or not. Whatever. That all being said, if dates are not added to Kenny's contract, supposedly last I saw, his contract would actually come up either this or next month. As far as a bigger name, again, like you said, that's so subjective depending on who you are, but I think we would all agree that Kenny Omega is a bigger name than Jay White. You could, we won't get into storyline and how Kenny Omega would fit. You could make Kenny Omega fit anywhere and everywhere. He'd be a similar situation like AJ Styles was. You insert wrestler, insert feud. Like, you could do so many things with Kenny Omega. Like,
well, the introduction feud for everyone seems to be Seth Rollins, so it would probably kick off with him.
But seriously, like, I get that some people don't care for Kenny Omega, and that's fine. I get it. Totally understand, especially if you've only watched Kenny Omega in AEW. I can understand. Like, Kenny Omega for me was New Japan, and his New Japan work, I can't even begin to describe, you guys. His New Japan work, his AEW matches do not hold a candle to his New Japan matches, maybe except for in terms of a brutality standpoint, the match he had with Moxley, that lights out match or whatever from a few years ago. Besides that, yeah, he gets the Meltzer 5-star matches, blah, blah, blah. The tag match that I was at live with him and Hangman against the Bucks, that was a tag team clinic. But Kenny Omega's not a tag team wrestler, And that all being said, I'm going to reel it back in. Kenny Omega is a bigger name than Jay White. I saw online in terms of, the whole where there's smoke, there's fire, as far as Kenny wanting to go to WWE or thinking about going to WWE, it could all just be a ruse, so to speak, to basically get Tony Khan to shell out more money. That all being said, I would love to see Kenny Omega go to WWE, but guys, if that happens, AEW doesn't last 2 more years. Like that would be such a nail in the coffin, because if Kenny Omega goes, I think you see a lot of other guys leave AEW. The Bucks, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I'm going to argue this for just a second. Regardless of where Kenny goes, I think there's several that are on their way out of AEW when their contracts are up.
Oh, for sure.
You don't expect people to stick around when they know more money and more exposure and more things are available elsewhere.
Yeah.
The only thing about the Kenny name that throws me off is his involvement with the video game, and the fact that he's leading that project. And I don't know how contracts work. I don't know if he has a separate contract to do the gaming, a separate contract as an EVP, a separate contract as a performer. So that's where the water gets murky for me. Is I don't know if I could count on him being freed up. Not to mention, most of them have 90-day non-compete clauses. So even if his contract's up tomorrow, if it's up in March, we still wouldn't be able to really have a conversation about him going nowhere until more like summertime. Which if they're looking to sign someone ASAP, and that's the rumor right now, I don't think Kenny's in the conversation for this particular name that they're mentioning. Yeah. Don't know who that else could be. They said, did they say talent? What was the wording?
I don't know. I just remember it was a bigger name.
Because the argument could be made that FTR is going there, and if you wanted to say bigger name, FTR would be the name. Yeah. And FTR to me is, regardless of my opinions about them, they've done a lot in the tag division that I think they accomplished what they wanted to do. I to an extent, with Leaving WWE, they put tag team wrestling on the map. I mean, and they helped with that. So if you're talking bigger name, FTR to me has a bigger name than Jay White.
I'll give you one more, and we'll kind of wrap up this segment. Is Matt Cardona a bigger name than Jay White?
See, that was one that came to my mind. And I would, one, if they threw that rumor out there to use it as storyline, they are geniuses.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is Matt Cardona's gimmick to the T of what they could do with him, especially with the Chelsea Green stuff. If you bring Matt Cardona in and have him and Chelsea Green rock together on screen too, oh my goodness, you have gold. I mean, you just from the storyline standpoint,
that's going to be must-see TV. I mean, 100%.
And like, I can't wait for the feuds between like Miz and Maurice and him and Chelsea Green, like the segments that would happen there from the comedy, the entertainment side of things. There's just so much. Could they do something with Edge and Beth Phoenix before they retire? Hilarious. Like there's so many options there, just from a couple standpoint. But as far as like resume, I mean, I don't think you couldn't say that Matt Cardona isn't a bigger name, more talented. Like, and that's where we have to we got
to differentiate here.
Jay White is a more talented wrestler than maybe most of the names that we'll say.
Oh yeah,
he's a very talented wrestler. So I don't want to say more talented and bigger name and think they're the same thing. Matt Cardona is a bigger name. Jay White is a better talent. And I think that those are different or better wrestler, because talent could even be taken out of context too. Yep. Jay White's the better wrestler. Matt Cardona is the bigger name. And so Cardona has every reason to go there. Wife's there. He has a history there. He's done everything he needs to do on the independent scene.
The money's there.
And at this point in his career, go collect your check. When you're done, go get yourself a producer role or a scout role. Like, lock your career up, dude. You've done enough. It is what it is. And, you're going to get your flowers.
And the side projects are no longer an issue with WWE talent. They'd still let him do his major wrestling figure stuff.
If anything, they would, because of Triple H, they would elevate his thing. Up, down has belts on their WWE shop. Like, if anything, they would find a way to say, hey, if you trust us, we'd like to elevate your product. We'd like to put you on the WWE network with this thing on Peacock and do your thing.
Yep.
So
You're freezing up. Uh-oh.
I'm coming. Hold on. It's my email trying to come up again.
Oh. Can you not uninstall that?
I need to. I don't know how. It's the one that was on the Mac, and I thought I turned it off, but I guess I didn't. Oh, nope.
Well, while you're figuring that out, I will if the bigger name, quote unquote, is a true rumor. I think my most likely name would be Nick Aldis. If you had to decide, who would you pick? You're back.
I think I'm back. Okay.
Yep.
Kind of. Okay, there we go. Man, now that we've said Matt Cardona, I think I'm going to leave Matt Cardona. I like Nick Aldis. I think the argument's closer between him and Jay White on that front. I think Matt Cardona is the more likely name as far as ASAP signings.
Fair enough. All right, guys, we got to get this rolling. We've been on for an hour, and we're just now getting to our segments. So, Elimination Chamber. I will preface by saying I've only watched the last 2 matches. But from what I hear and what I've read, the last 2 matches were pretty much the card. Let's
put it this way. If you want to go, I'll preface by saying I thought the whole card was great.
Okay.
I thoroughly enjoyed the pay-per-view. But you only need about an hour and a half of your time to go watch the other 3 matches. Like they weren't very long. I felt like the card was racing, but then I realized when we got to the last 2 matches, like, oh, this is why.
So opening match, Asuka gets the win, defeats Carmella, Liv Morgan, Natalya, Nikki Cross, and Raquel. This match went about 19 and a half minutes. And I'm going to compare these first 3 matches, the grades that CBS Sports put out there for these matches. But before I tell you their grade, I want to get your thoughts and what your grades on the matches were.
My only complaint about this match, outside of there was a couple spots that I felt like they were overly discussed and not executed correctly. So you could tell they really wanted to do that spot, but they weren't done to the best of their abilities. That was one of the things, and I felt the match felt rushed.
Okay.
I don't know if they're like, hey, women, like, even though it's an elimination chamber match, like, you have 10 minutes. Like, I don't know why it felt so quick, but the eliminations happened very quick. Carmella basically just super kicked the whole entire match. That there wasn't a whole lot happening with her.
So for context, it looks like all of the eliminations took place within like a 7-minute time period.
Right. It was pretty much like, get your spots in and wrap it up. Like that's where it was at for me. As far as like the booking decision, I think Asuka is definitely, especially with the gimmick change and everything, Asuka is definitely the best person in that match to go up against Bianca Belair on a WrestleMania stage.
100%.
And if Bianca's dropping, that is probably the best person you could have her drop to. Outside of, I thought Raquel Rodriguez from the standpoint of, what she can do, and you can build her up to be a Rhea Ripley, a Bianca Belair on the main roster. I kind of could have saw that. But Carmella is not the person to beat Bianca Belair on her current run. She's had a pretty dominant run, so you can't just have her lose to anybody. And so I thought if they're going to do it at Mania, Asuka would be the one to have that the best shot at that.
Real quick, Bonnie, Aldis is no longer part of NWA. He kind of had a falling out with them. Really, it's been a couple months ago, and I'm pretty sure his contract actually ended.
Should be up by now. Yeah,
I think it actually ended 12/31 of last year. So, what grade would you give? What grade would you give the match?
As far as grade, I have to go because of the rest of the card. I'm gonna drop the grade on it. I'm gonna say C+.
Okay,
just because it felt rushed. There were some spots. There was the spot I'm really thinking of was involving 3 of them. It was Raquel Rodriguez. She had someone up for like a power slam, I think, or something like that. And then she was supposed to get kicked into the steel siding, and the timing was just
odd. Yeah.
It just, and there was a couple of those moments.
Okay.
So yeah.
It's pretty close to what CBS Sports, they gave it a B minus. So
I was thinking
like,
B minus, but based off the rest of the card, I am going to drop it down one.
Bobby Lashley defeats Lesnar in about 4.5 minutes by DQ.
So this one could have not have happened for me. Like, I get what they're gonna do. I understand.
See, that's just it. I don't get what they're gonna do. So explain.
I get that they're kind of teasing something more long term, obviously, with Bray. I don't know who he's going after automatically. I thought Bobby Lashley, just because Brock's not a prominent role on TV to begin with, and Brock doesn't normally take a lot of losses, and he's already lost to Roman several times this year. You cannot have Bray Wyatt lose to Brock Lesnar. It cannot happen. Not to mention Bray is kind of running more of a edgy face, and Bobby's kind of leaning more edgy heel at this point with some of the things he's doing, especially if he does do the Hurt Business again and all that stuff. I think there's a potential storyline there. The only thing I didn't understand, and maybe this will happen with the superstar shakeup that they'll do after Mania, is Bray's on SmackDown and all of this is Raw. So
yeah,
I didn't understand that's the only part I didn't understand. But clearly they want this match to happen on a bigger platform. But now I'm reading the rumor is that it won't be at Mania. As far as getting the official like rubber match between Bobby and Brock,
which this was supposed to be, was it not?
Yeah, but let's just be real for a second. That match should not have been a standard match. Like, if they're gonna have a rubber match, they've already had 2 standard matches. Someone said fight pit, and I was in.
Yes.
I was like,
see, that's where I was going with this. If it is going to be a WrestleMania match between these two, like, you need to straight up do a legit MMA match between these two. Like, fight pit, throw them in an octagon, cage, whatever, bust out the old, I guess that was a fight pit. The thing that Shamrock did like back in the 90s or whatever it was. It was on a pay-per-view. I forgot which one, but like, dude, have it be like a legit fight. I mean, like those guys, like Lashley and Lesnar talk about it ahead of time and just be like, look, there's going to be, an actual predetermined winner, whoever that might be. But like,
and we know the last like run, we know what we need to do to get to the win, but the lead up to that, let's just go to work. Like,
yeah, that's the only way another one-on-one match makes sense to me between these two. A triple threat with these two and Bray Wyatt makes no sense to me at all.
I don't think it's going to be a triple threat though. I think right now what they're doing is their long-term storytelling with Bray Wyatt, and they're leaving it up in the air on who he's about to actually chase. Is it Brock? Is it Bobby? They like to do that with Bray Wyatt. They like to leave the mystery there. I didn't like the DQ finish. This match, they had a lot of great things, I think, going, and I was like, oh, they're actually going to have a decent match here. And then the finish just was like, why put this on this card? It didn't need to happen. They could have done something if they wanted to get Bray involved, they could have teased the contract signing that they had been doing and have Bray do it on a Raw and then never get the contract signed. So the match didn't happen. That 4, 5, 6 minutes that they used on that could have went to the women's elimination chamber. It could have been a little bit longer of a women's match. That's just my opinion. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to rate this match because it's not really a
rateable.
Like, they didn't really do anything. I mean, if you want to give it a rating, I mean, you'd have to rate it low from the standpoint of the quality of the match. But the Bray thing's got me intrigued. Whether it doesn't make sense or not, it's an interesting pairing. It's got me intrigued.
So Thomas Russell gave it a D. CBS Sports actually gave it a C minus, which I think, from what I'm reading, from what you're telling me, is generous. So
not that it was bad. Like what they did in the ring, what they did in that, it had me. I was watching. But I didn't like how they did it to finish the match.
So, do we both agree that their next match will be like they're going to have another match? I think that's inevitable. We can agree on that. Does it happen at Mania?
So I read a rumor that says it doesn't. And here's my thing. One, you have 2 nights to fill at WrestleMania. And as of right now, I don't, and they do, maybe this year they won't because of Triple H. Like if you notice the last 3 or 4 pay-per-views have only been like 5 matches on each card, and they've been better quality, longer running matches.
Yeah.
So I don't know what WrestleMania looks like this year, but for the most part, they've had about 8 to 9 matches, I think, on each night. If I had to guess, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's around
Probably
8.
about right. Yeah.
So you have 16 matches, 16 storylines that you have to have. I can name maybe 7 to 8 right now off the top of my head. And that's subtracting, that's including adding, like, there's going to be someone for Gunter. There's going to be someone for Austin Theory. Like they're going to have those on the card. But I don't know if you have 16 matches right now that are WrestleMania quality matches. I mean, we're thinking Cody Roman. We're thinking, or not thinking Cody Roman. We're doing Becky, or not Becky. Charlotte Rhea. We're doing Bianca, Asuka. Let's just say Gunter and Theory have matches. You're probably going to get Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos. I think the rumor is they're going to do the 6 women tag match with Becky, Lita, and Trish versus Bailey.
Damage Control.
Damage Control. That's 7.
Steve Austin's supposedly been training for a match.
We'll see, but
throw that in there possibly.
Logan Paul, Seth Rollins. So I mean, that's 8 right there that I can name off the top of my head. I don't know. Can you name me another storyline that's currently there? Or a title that I'm missing.
I mean, if for some reason I'm just thinking out loud, I mean, if the Street Profits split and actually have a feud, or if one of them turns on each other, you might have that at Mania.
Well, so Judgment Day is probably going to be on there with something with Edge. I don't think that's over. They'll probably do one more.
Edge and Finn, probably Hell in a Cell.
So they're probably going to do that. So that's 9. So let's just say 9 to 10 matches. We need 16. There's still 6 matches roughly in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that Bobby Brock is a bigger name match than some of the ones we already named. So I'm thinking Fight Pit. I'm thinking if you can't do Fight Pit because of the structure, because you named Hell in a Cell, like there's just too much to do, then cool. But I think we need to do some kind of like MMA fight or I didn't really like when they brought Daniel Cormier in to referee. I thought that was terrible for the Matt Riddle Rollins thing. But making it feel more like a real fight, I would be okay with that. So I think it should be Mania. To answer your question, I think it should be Mania, but I'm reading rumors. I don't know where you else could do it. It can't go on like WrestleMania Backlash or Payback or whatever the first couple pay-per-views are of the first quarter for the next quarter for them. It needs to be on one of their big 4, which the next one would be SummerSlam. So you're waiting a pretty long time to rehash the storyline again.
Yeah. Next match was Edge and Beth defeating Finn and Rhea. A little under 14 minutes. What'd you think?
Liked it. I did enjoy it. I thought, that was the storyline I didn't throw out there. Rey and Dominic at Mania will probably happen. I thought Rey Mysterio would have came out. That's the only thing about this match that kind of shocked me, is that I thought with Dominic getting involved in the match, Rhea and Finn are out there. Damien's getting ready. So it's 3-on-2. I thought, hey, the way you can even the odds is you have Rey come out. Him and Edge had already kind of had some on-screen stuff together. And he kind of gets Dominic out and kind of sets the stage for their encounter at Mania. We didn't get that. So that was a little shocking. I thought giving Edge and Beth the win was good because you've had Edge lose way too many times. Here's the interesting thing that it was announced during the press conference. I don't know if you saw it, but tomorrow night on Raw, Theory's doing an open challenge, and Edge is going to challenge him for it. I think you're going to see the Judgment Day get back involved. When does WWE come back to Canada, though? Because he said he's going to retire. I thought it was this year.
SummerSlam? Isn't SummerSlam in Canada later this year? Or did I make that up?
I don't know. I'm just saying the rumor was that he was going to retire in Canada. And when does that I thought it was this year that he said that it was going to be this year in Canada.
No, that's at Ford Field. Don't know.
So now I'm kind of thinking, well, is he done? Like, are they going to do this open challenge thing? They're still doing the Cena stuff. So I think Theory will get a win by cheating and say, I beat Edge, now, that's another storyline. I mean, I already counted Theory having a match at Mania being there, but it'll probably be against Cena the way that they keep setting up for it. So I don't know. I don't know what they do with Edge and Beth, but I think giving the win was good because you've had him lose too many times to the Judgment Day already.
Agreed.
I like the match. I thought this was a good middle of the card match. I thought I'll say this. I thought the card flowed very well.
Okay.
I'll start upping my grades from this point because I thought this was kind of the turning point of the pay-per-view for me. I'm going to give this one a B-.
Okay. You and Thomas agree. CBS Sports actually gave it a B. I feel like CBS Sports in general is generous with their grades.
Just a smidge.
I know. I just mean in general.
Right.
Next match, chamber match for the U.S. belt. Austin Theory retains, defeating Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano, Montez Ford, and Seth Rollins. This might be the best Elimination Chamber match from top to bottom, with the exception of one or two.
The early ones,
yeah.
Like this has been the best one in a long time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, this probably makes I think I've seen every Elimination Chamber match. I'm pretty sure I have. I'd put this in my top 3.
I can't remember which one it was. The one that comes to my mind that I think I would put over this was the one Triple H was in it, and he got really bloody, and I think he went through the actual glass, like when they had the breakaway glass or whatever.
I think he's gone through the glass like
multiple times, but
yeah.
I think him and Shawn Michaels. I'd have to go back and find it.
Yeah, that was the very first. Yeah, that was the very first one. I don't know if any of them will top that one.
That one was I mean, that was gruesome. But this one, spot fest, bro. This one, just wow. And not to mention, I love the multiple angles that they ran in this one. Genius to make this a United States title chamber. Love that they didn't force feed a men's or women's championship match in the chamber just because it's a chamber pay-per-view.
Oh, 100%.
I absolutely love that they do the United States title in this. Love the angles that they played. Gotta give props to everyone in the match, but just spots after spot. First off, the Johnny Gargano Hurricanrana thing that they did.
Oh my gosh.
And the placement, like they placed, who did do it to? Rollins?
Yeah.
Rollins hit dead on to who he was supposed to hit with not knowing where he was supposed to go.
Yeah.
Like it was such a great spot. And I thought they were going to throw Johnny. I thought Rollins was about to powerbomb Johnny off of it.
I did too.
And I was like, that's a good spot because Johnny's small. You can't really miss when you got all those people down there. And then when they threw Seth, I was like, that is execution at its finest. Bronson Reed's a boss.
Oh,
that's all I'm going to say. Bronson Reed is a boss. All right. So I had to get that out. That dude is a powerhouse. I mean, we've got to see him live, and I was very impressed when I saw him there too, because I watched, was it that clothesline outside of the ring at Warrior Wrestling that I could not get over, or he ran it. It was, I don't remember, or he ran into Jeff Cobb outside of the ring. I don't even remember that spot, but I remember just going, Oh, look at that. But Bronson Reed's a boss. But I'll actually tell you who my MVP of the match is. It's Montez Ford. Montez Ford is a boss. All right. I don't care what. No, I've seen people already saying stuff in chat threads and stuff on Facebook. He did a couple flips and everybody says he's the MVP. I just don't get. Shut up. Like, my goodness. This guy who, let's just be real. This is the first time he's been elevated to a singles level title match. Never hasn't been there. Comes out and puts on a show. First off, the man does. He's in the DX shop like after everything.
Yeah. So that's funny. Chris said, "Did you do a super kick count?" We should have did a crotch chop count.
You could have done a drinking game. No lie. With how many times Montez Ford does a DX chop. Because I mean, it was like every time he did something, I was cracking up. But the man is energy personified. I mean, he has so much energy. But the spot from the top of the structure, that man pointed himself straight down. I mean, climbed that cage, flipped himself down, and just went straight down like an arrow. And I was impressed with Montez Ford. Seth Rollins, as always, does great. You can never go wrong with Seth Rollins. Who am I missing in this match? Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, Montez Ford,
Austin Theory, the champ.
Austin Theory. There's
Damian
one more
Priest.
though. Damian Priest. So Damian Priest, I thought actually was the sleeper of the match. Like, not that he didn't do anything good, but I think everybody really performed. Damian Priest had some hard-hitting stuff. Like, he did his thing. But I think, like, when you have guys like Montez, Johnny Gargano, who haven't had their moment to shine as much as Damian Priest has, but they really shine. Bronson Reed, I mean, they really shine.
Yeah.
I give Austin Theory credit. He did some really good selling in this match. The stuff between him and Johnny saying, like, hey, we need to get Seth. And, then Johnny turns on him. Then he looks at Damian Priest, taps him on the back. He's like, yeah, go get him. And he kicks him. Austin Theory's doing his thing. Not the best wrestler. Still hasn't sold me that he's the future of the business that they were trying to throw at us. But he is improving, and I'll give him props on that. This match for me, I'm going to give it an A. Not A+, but an A. I was very, very impressed. And I think there's a lot that they can do. They really showed the talent pool that they have in that match.
Yeah, so I'm giving it an A- only because I get why they did it for the storyline. But still, anytime you have an ending that's an elimination chamber or a cage match where it's supposed to be like nobody can get in, blah, 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 no one can get out, blah, blah, blah. But somebody got in and out.
Now, this is where I go back to Montez Ford sold that injury, though, for that.
100%. Oh,
the
yeah.
only problem, and without fast forwarding to the next match, I didn't like the back-to-back weird endings. That was a little weird for me. And then you also couple that in with the fact that you had the DQ with Brock and Bobby. You had 3 of your 5 matches on this card end without a clear-cut winner. So that was like a negative for me. But I thought that I didn't think Austin Theory wasn't walking out of this pay-per-view without the belt. I thought it made sense. There's too much setting up for him and Cena at Mania for Theory not to walk out. When it ended up being him and Rollins, I said to myself, one way or another, Logan Paul is getting in this match.
Yeah. And that was kind of the theme of this entire pay-per-view for me, is that it was predictable. It was safe. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, WWE just showed you can put out a product that is entertaining, even if it is safe, even if it is predictable.
It had Clash of the Castle vibes. It had great matches, but you kind of knew what was going to happen.
And listen, guys, I posted this on one of our chat threads. Canadian crowds never disappoint. I mean, they're regardless of, it being Sammy's hometown and that being the main event and stuff, the crowd was into, at least, I don't want to say they were into it all night because I only watched the last 2 matches, but they were into it from the time I turned on Peacock to the time to the time they signed off and went to the press conference. I'm giving it an A- just because of of the ending. I'd probably give it an A if, like you said, if there's a clear-cut winner. My takeaways coming out of this match, though, one is that Montez Ford is just, reaffirms the need to split Street Profits. As good as they are together, I think sky's the limit for either of them.
And they could do it how they did New Day. You don't have to have them.
Yeah, 100%.
Protect the tag team so you can come back to it at some point.
100%. Absolutely. But I would venture, rephrase. I'll go out on a limb and say if for some reason it's not Cena for the U.S. belt, just do a singles match with Theory and Montez Ford at Mania and put the belt on Ford at that point. And then, you're off to the races with Montez Ford. Two other takeaways. You can have an Elimination Chamber match, a good, entertaining Elimination Chamber match, and not have to get color. You don't have to blade. You don't have to bleed. It's not necessary. I feel like that's a problem with AEW is that they're overdoing it, especially with certain wrestlers. We all know who I'm talking about. The other thing coming out of it is WWE is definitely making it known that Logan Paul is at the top of their list in terms of strapping a rocket to him and just letting him go, whatever it looks like, and for good reason. He's good. It's not the same situation as, yes, he's a celebrity, but it's not like the celebrity spots on a pay-per-view. Again, Triple H said it. He was born to do this. It clearly shows. You don't have a good match with Roman Reigns if you're not born to do this. If you don't have some sort of skill in the ring, or a lot of it, I should say. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the match. I thought it was very good. Again, giving it an A- only because of the finish, but otherwise phenomenal. I thought it was great.
What did CBS give it?
They gave it an A- also.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then the title match, Roman Reigns retains over Sami at 32 minutes and 20 seconds. Everything about this match, except for the last 5 minutes or so, was flawless. But then at the end, I could rant and rave about, the near falls and the spots and the execution. Everything was just perfect. But then you had not one, but the two ref spots, and both of which seemed super awkward. As if they were everyone in the ring wasn't communicating right, or they had to improvise somehow. I can't put my finger on it, but it just seemed odd at the end. It's the execution of it didn't go with how they talked about it or how they planned. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I'm okay with the ending. The result, that is. I'm okay with Roman retaining. I wish somehow they would have gotten KO involved while the match was still going. I get why they did what they did, just so the crowd, still kind of send the crowd home happy. But it kind of just seemed like once Roman won, the crowd just kind of just gave up. They didn't care what happened after that. The slow burn, so to speak, with Jey Uso and what looks to be him realigning with Jimmy and setting up the tag title match eventually, still seems like the direction that they're going. I I think in small sample size, because we have to see what happens over the next week or two or however long. It seems like I would have just rather than rip the Band-Aid off, so to speak, and just do a full turn right on the pay-per-view with Jay. And I don't know. Again, I have to see what the next couple weeks holds and how they do it. But it just seemed like this would have been the opportunity to have Jay do the turn. You could still have KO come out at that point. But then, I don't know, do some kind of schmoz or whatever, and then you still have Roman retain whatever. And then you could still have Roman and Sammy kind of make the comeback. I mean, really, you could have done something similar to what they did at the end of the Rumble, make it seem like it was just going to be a beatdown or whatever, but then it doesn't turn out that way, and then Sammy and KO make the comeback or whatever, and then you've got your tag title match that's obvious, and then you've got the next few weeks to build on that. Again, I sound like a broken record. I have to see what they do over the next week or two, to see if creatively it makes sense. Because look, maybe they did it this way because they're not sure if they're still going to do the tag title match or not. I don't know, but the ending seemed awkward. I'll say that. I agree with the result. So I'll just go ahead and give it a match grade. CBS Sports actually gave it an A. I think that's pretty generous. I would actually give it a. I actually thought the Elimination Chamber match was match of the night. I'm gonna have to give this a B+. All
right, so a little bit.
So you have the floor.
A little bit of a hot take here. They killed Superman in front of Metropolis last night. I mean, that was. This is one of those moments where I was like, this is where you booked yourself into a corner. Because on the one hand, I can agree, Roman losing a belt at Mania or retaining at Mania. I mean, the story that you're building towards is at Mania. I get that. But you just did all of this work. It's like Sammy just, I mean, naturally got somebody over. That's what you would kill for that. For all of the guys that you would want to get over on the main roster, you would want it to be as natural as Sami Zayn got over in this storyline. I think it is a huge missed opportunity if this caps off with Sammy winning a tag title belt with Kevin Owens.
Would you say it's this?
What a miscarriage of justice!
I would say it's worse than that. I think that you have missed the point of storytelling if this is really capped off with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn winning tag title belts. I think that is beneath both of them at this point. Don't know what you do with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. You can figure that out. Kevin Owens versus Gunter could be a great WrestleMania match. That there are matches that can be made for Kevin Owens. If it were me, and you kind of alluded to it, I don't know if the tag title match is the way to go at Mania. If it were me, what I would do, I would put Sami Zayn in that triple threat match. I would put Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns in a triple threat match. Here's why. What I would do. You get the belts off Roman. You also protect Roman from being pinned, though. Roman Reigns spears Cody. The match is looking like, everything is going Roman's way. Sami Zayn at the last second pulls Roman out of the way. Throws him out of the ring. Sami Zayn pins Cody. Sami Zayn wins the world title. You have a feud between Sami Zayn and Cody now for a few months. Now, Sami Zayn doesn't have to hold the belt super long, right? Sami Zayn could be a transitional champion, and it still did the job. Have him be the one that pins Cody, not Roman, because Cody can take a pin and still be over. He got speared by Roman. Sami Zayn comes in, gets the pinfall on him real quick. Sami Zayn gets the pop. We have the big moment. The payoff's there. Roman goes off TV because he's embarrassed. He's off TV. He's embarrassed. I can't believe this happened. Yada, yada, yada. Cody beats Sami Zayn at He could be WrestleMania Backlash if you wanted. I mean, it doesn't have to be a long run for Sami, but you got to give Sami the payoff, I think. I really think that you're missing you're missing the great storytelling, the steak, if you will, that Roman Reigns was talking about, how they were cooking the story. I think you're missing it by not giving Sami the run, regardless of how long it actually needs to be. So if it were me, I'd throw Sami into this picture. You've already put a teaser there between him and Cody on Raw the past week. You have it set up between him and Roman already. The stories are there. Everyone's writing their own story. That's another thing you could do with this. Cody keeps referencing, I have to finish my story. Sami Zayn needs to finish his. Roman needs to continue his. Like, it's a bigger match feel than just Cody versus Roman, in my opinion. And now there's suspense there. You really don't know who's going to come out of this match. It's not as clear cut as Cody's going to be the one to dethrone Roman. I would throw everybody off. Sami Zayn pins Cody because of what Roman did, though. Not to mention, it still plays in the storyline. Sami piggybacked everything off of the bloodline. You still have a storyline there at some point. And I think that's where I would go with it. Cody can win the belt whenever. He's gonna get his moment whenever. Sami, this is his moment now. You don't do it with Sami now, I don't think you could ever get there. I don't think you could ever rebuild, restructure, and get him as over as he is right now and at any other point in his career. So that's just me. I loved the match. I thought there was a lot of great storytelling. I love that they got Sami Zayn's wife involved with the storytelling. I love a lot of the close calls, the close pinfalls, the 2 1/4, 2 9/10, if you will, on some of those pinfalls. Phenomenal storytelling in the match. Didn't care for the referee stuff either. Not to mention, it was the thing was weird for me is the one referee gets knocked out. They sent a second referee out pretty quick. When the second referee gets knocked out, do we go like 5 minutes of Roman Reigns hitting him with chairs, interferences being involved and stuff, and not a single referee was sent down to the ring?
Yeah, that was part of it too. Like, literally, Roman, I forgot what the spot was, but like, I think Roman used a chair or something. Like, literally, as soon as he hit Sami with the chair or whatever the spot was, however they executed it, like, literally the ref slid in the ring afterwards and was like, wouldn't that be a disqualification? I mean, if you're really, if we're doing this how professional wrestling has operated in the past, and if it's one of those things where, like, I know they did this in WCW where they were just like, the ref is letting this go, blah, blah, blah. I could understand if guys on commentary would have said something like, I assume referee so-and-so, whatever his name is letting this go because, the fans want to see Sami,
you don't want to take Sami's opportunity away. Right.
Yeah. But they didn't do that. So.
And I almost would have rather it be a DQ finish. If you were going to have Sami lose like that anyways, I'd rather it be Roman didn't get pinned, but he didn't win. And now you still have this storyline where Sami kind of deserves to be in the talks. Maybe he doesn't get a shot at Mania, but it might be after the feud's over. And now you have a number one contender for Roman or Cody, whoever comes out of Mania. So I think they missed the ball on how they booked the finish. The Jay stuff was cool, kind of referencing back to the beginning of this whole story where it all started with Roman and Jay and just all this stuff. So a lot of great storytelling. I'm going to agree with you. I think the Chamber match was match of the night. I think this had better storytelling because there's a bigger story there. But the storytelling is what takes over this match, not the actual in-ring ability. I'm going to give it an A- because I gave the Chamber match an A. It was good. But I hope and I pray, me personally, I think Sami Owens versus the Usos is small potatoes to what they actually have available to them with this story.
Why potatoes?
Tomatoes, pajamas. I don't care. They have a bigger story here than what they might have scripted, and they need to. I think this is where WWE, you're really good at shifting on a dime. Let's shift the story to what makes sense.
Let's shift to New Japan briefly. We won't go through the entire card. I mean, I've not even watched any of this, to be completely honest. Just touching on a few things. We mentioned earlier that our guest next week, Bobby Fish, actually was on this card in the pre-show. Was defeated by David Finlay. What else do I want to mention? So Fred Rosser, who used to go by Darren Young, I believe, in WWE, I think that was his name. He actually dropped the Strong Openweight Championship to Kenta. What else? So Motor City Machine Guns, they retained their Strong Openweight Tag Team Championship. We mentioned Eddie Kingston defeating Jay White. Jay White has to leave New Japan now. Kazuchika Okada retained the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Story of the night, though, Mercedes Moné, formerly known as Sasha Banks, is now the IWGP Women's Champion. I think we all saw this coming, predicted it. I mean, I don't think you can have her debut match and her being a marquee personality, because we can't say marquee name because she changed her name. But, you know, she's going to elevate the women's division in New Japan. So, I mean, again, I've not watched any of this card. I think that was the right call, though. That was really all I wanted to mention. Your thoughts? Anything you wanted to add?
I echo your thoughts. I think she elevates the women's division as they're building a women's division too. Shout out to New Japan for landing her. I mean, and for her to kind of know her lane, because she could have easily went to AEW, collected the same paycheck that she got in WWE, if not more, and got lost in the mix or got hot shotted to a title and really nothing for her to do after that. This makes total sense. She can still work as many indie dates as she wants to do. She can go be an actress. She can do all the stuff she wants to do to make her money, and they could have her hold this belt for
years.
Put the timeline on it. And she can run the roster, and she can build that women's division from the ground up. That's what she wanted to do anyways. She's a wrestling person at heart, y'all. You've seen too many interviews of her talking about her passion for wrestling. So she's going to be passionate about what she's doing there.
Yeah.
So I think it's the right call. I don't know what you do from here, because I think the only two women they have on the roster is her and Kyrie, like whoever Kyrie's saying his name there. But
yeah, that just goes back to what I mentioned. I don't follow New Japan anymore enough to know what their women's division looks like, to be honest. So
I think there's only two women on the roster right now, which is fine, because they're not in a rush. Like, you don't have to have her defend anytime soon. Like, take your time, build it, do the right things to do that. But I didn't get to see the match yet. I want to go watch her match specifically. I don't really care about the rest of the card. Not to say that they're not good matches, just don't really care to see them. Not invested in that way, but people that the reviews I've read have raved about the performances in that Kyrie Mercedes match, whatever you want to call it, to the point that I was like, you know what, I want to go see what it looked like. So,
where are we at? Yeah, I think we're gonna give you some Lord Alfred Hayes and then wrap up the show.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
But please stick around for our announcements. We would appreciate it. Real quick, we do have our Pro Wrestling Tee store if you want to support us. ProWrestlingTees.com/GoingBrdwyPodcast. I know that they're actually having a special President's Day sale tomorrow. I think it's like 15% off. So if you want a GBP shirt and you want a discount, hop on over to ProWrestlingTees.com/GoingBrdwyPodcast. Check that out tomorrow and get 15% off. We just had a comment that said Motor City Machine Guns forever, which is perfect transition to this. We are the proud talent sponsors for the Motor City Machine Guns on. I'm going to take this ticker off so you guys can see. Wrong one. There we go. So Grandel Wrestling, it's a local promotion out of St. Louis. So far, they're only running annual cards. This is, excuse me, this is their St. Louis versus the World 2 event. And we are the proud talent sponsor for the Motor City Machine Guns during, excuse me, during that event. Let's see what else. I'll just throw these up again real quick. We got 4 consecutive interviews back to back weeks. Bobby Fish now these are all 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central time. So these are all the same and they're all on Sundays. So a week from tonight, Bobby Fish on the 26th. We've got Eric Bischoff the week after on the 5th. We've got John Alba the week after that on the 12th. And then we've got Marcus Bagwell the week after that on the 19th. And actually, I was thinking about it. I think we actually have Brian Blair the week after Bagwell, but it's on a Monday.
Yeah, I think we
rescheduled him for the Monday after that. So what was the date on that? So that means Brian Blair would be with us on March the 27th. We don't have the updated graphic for that. So technically we've got 5 weeks of consecutive interviews. Assuming that there aren't any cancellations or reschedulings or anything like that. So
and that would mean no show on the 26th, guys. Just
correct.
So you guys can get that in your notes. We would do a show on that Monday, not that Sunday. So,
and then a few weeks after that, we do have Jake Roberts joining us as well on April the 10th. That is also a Monday, I believe, and that's a special time at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. So lots of guests coming up. I'm super excited about that. We are constantly, we're still constantly communicating with talent and trying to get guests on as well. So what's this? What am I missing here?
I don't know. Thomas, you can clarify what you mean.
We were going to have a watch party last night, and we just, I had other things in my life that were a priority over that. And, we just decided to not have one last night, and we will definitely have a watch party in the future. It's not like are we going to get a pre-WrestleMania show?
So I just wanted to address this. When it comes to WrestleMania, I like to enjoy it. I'm just gonna get it all out of the way right now. We are not gonna do a WrestleMania watch party on either night. We're not.
No, I think he meant if we're gonna have a podcast before WrestleMania to do predictions and stuff.
Not the days of. No,
We'll
obviously give our predictions at some point. We'll make time to do that. But no, we're not doing any.
We might have to throw our predictions out on our social media or something, because to his point, I don't think we're going to have another.
Do a quick pop on real quick just to give our predictions.
I guess we could do them after our interview with Brian Blair on that show too. Once he's off.
We'll give you guys predictions for sure and give you guys a chance to throw your thoughts out there. But as far as I just want to preface now, we are not doing any WrestleMania watch parties.
No,
nothing day of. And honestly, we may not even do a show that week because it's 2 nights of wrestling in a row. We don't need to add another product. Not to mention there's going to be 900 other wrestling companies putting on a show that you guys may want to watch. So we know our market. We know where we rank in the ratings. So we might have to reschedule a show or just not do one that weekend.
We'll let you know.
But I like to enjoy the show and that weekend. So
I assume you're referring to our Pro Wrestling Tea Store, Bonnie. I don't believe so, unfortunately.
You'd have to check. Everything's made to order there. So you just have to go on there and see if they allow it to happen.
We've actually been trying to, I'll just lay this out there. We've actually been talking to one of them to get them on the show, and they've come out and said, they're super nice, by the way. The one we've been talking with, he just says his schedule is really busy. It's unpredictable. And, it's kind of, the ball is kind of in his court at this point, but Cole and I aren't going to repeatedly bother somebody, even if they're talking with us, because
It ain't that serious.
Yeah.
We want to have people on, but they gotta want to. We want them to want to be on though too, y'all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We've had a couple guests. I'm not going to name names, but we've had a couple guests where it definitely felt like we were just another thing that they had to do. We want people like Kylie. We want people like Tully Blanchard was great. Nikita Koloff. You name another one. I don't
Jay
know.
Lethal.
Jay Lethal. Like there are people that really. Brian Cage was great too. People that really want to actually have a conversation. So,
and you guys know what we're talking about as far as the guests that actually feel like they want to be here, as opposed to just like feel like they have to just because, or
we're just another thing they booked. And
you can tell because those interviews aren't as good. I mean, they're just so rigid and such. This might be a possibility.
Now that I could do, I let Alex and I get in our private chat and make sure there's no conflicting matters there.
When does Money in the Bank fall on though? Because I know
because they'll probably do WrestleMania Backlash.
Let's see, Saturday the 1st. So that could
what month?
July. Sorry. Saturday, July 1st.
Yeah, guys, just let me and Alex talk without
we'll
going
figure it
into
out.
too many details. Summer, this is my last year traveling doing music, and from like end of May to August, I am gone a lot, and I don't know if I want to take on another endeavor.
And real quick too, this is something that Cole and I mean, I've mentioned it to Cole. So I'm going to be on vacation with my family late May and early June. 100%. Yeah. I mean, Medusa as well.
I agree on both.
Aside from the crying. I'm going to be on vacation with my family late May and early June. So there's definitely going to be 2 consecutive weeks that we will not have a show unless Cole wanted to do one solo. But we've actually talked about maybe taking like a mini summer break, maybe taking like a month off or something like that. Cause I think Cole, you had a date that fell like right before or right after our vacation that we wouldn't be able to do a show that week either, if I remember correctly.
We so just need Alex and I don't get near enough time to sit down and discuss the future plans. What you see is what you get when it comes to planning. It's hard enough to plan a guest as it is from time to time. So we really do want to do a watch party. I love Money in the Bank. That would be a fun one to do. But with this being my last year traveling and doing stuff, I got a lot of things booked. And my time with my wife is important too. And so I think that pay-per-view probably falls on a Saturday.
It's a Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just another thing, y'all. So
there's a lot of moving parts in our schedules, guys, especially approaching summertime. We might be moving the show, and this is not even something I've talked to Cole about yet. We might have to move the show off from Sunday nights to another night of the week. So surprise.
we've been having multiple conversations. We've been having that conversation for a minute. So
yeah,
we have multiple conversations as far as structure and things that need to happen. So as far as when we'll actually get to do a watch party, y'all just bear with us. We do want to do them. We have a blast doing them. It's also set up too, because if we do one, Alex and I pretty much have to do them in separate locations. We don't even get together to watch it because of how our setup is now. We don't have a strong enough location to go to where both of us can be on and not have freezing and all that stuff. So there's little things that we got to work out for things like that to happen. So don't want to rant and rave over it nonstop, but we want to get there. Just allow us time to do that in excellence so it comes across the way we want it to. So
Wednesdays at 2 a.m. Not quite. I mean, it's also on our radar to do another a marathon watch party thing. I mean, that's going to be further down the road just because of logistics, and again, like Cole said, we're not in the same location anymore. But I mean, it's still on our radar to do. We have contacts to where we could get the few guests on to span the 10-12 hours or whatever. So just know, guys, that we're constantly, as time will allow, striving to make our podcast better, acquiesce the requests, I guess, if I phrase that right. Know that we understand where you guys are, we know what the people want, so to speak, and we're doing our best to make it happen. But it has to make sense with our schedules as well. So anyway, we're approaching 2 hours. Cole, it is about that time. Any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We sincerely appreciate it. For those of you who are off tomorrow, enjoy your day.
I'm not off.
Hope you have a great weekend or a week this next week. And until next Sunday, when we have the Bobby Fish on with us, I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you then. But until next time, I'll leave you with your favorite thing in the entire world.
What did I decide on anything as far as my sign off?
Well, last week I think you crow called. If I remember correctly, you crow called. You had mentioned other things, so you can workshop. You can play around until something just seems to fall into place.
Well, I don't want to steal your thunder with a crow call.
You can never steal my thunder with a crow call. I am the original crow caller.
I could do I'm wearing the shirt. I could do a Seth Rollins laugh.
Oh, give it to us. Anyways.
Oh, we forgot to mention this. The Batman
Joker,
trailer.
The Joker Batman thing.
So good.
Hilarious.
So good. Oh man.
Oh yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Next Saturday. Yes. Next Saturday.
This upcoming Saturday.
Yes, this coming Saturday. Going Broadway podcast gaming pay-per-view. Yes, sir. We are going to be posting. I don't know if we got it to our patrons yet. At this point, it's too late. We're going to be posting all of the match cards.
It's too late.
When I tell you, we put a little teaser already in our Discord. I made match cards for all of these. Some of them have stipulations that you are going to be shocked by. So I'm excited. It's going to be a good time. So be prepared. 1 p.m. Central Standard Time this Saturday. We are having our first Going Broadway podcast pay-per-view, and you will not want to miss it. So make sure that you are on. Get your fruit snacks, and let's have a good time.
Subscribe to our Twitch as well to get rid of those ads. It helps support us. Not to mention, it keeps the ads away from whenever we do our watch parties. You don't want ads popping up during our pay-per-views, much less WWE pay-per-views whenever we do our watch parties. So,
right now,
that being said,
all right.
we'll see you next week with Bobby Fish.